Everything changed in a matter of seconds. And now, the window might be slamming shut. Welcome to NFL Nexus, and welcome to today's explainer. We are setting the stage for what feels like a highly intense, cinematic, make-or-break year for the Dallas Cowboys. We are heading deep into the heart of Texas to look at a franchise that is defined by sky-high expectations, massive contracts, and unrelenting, suffocating scrutiny. The 2026 Dallas Cowboys are stepping into a season that feels incredibly heavy. The stakes have literally never been higher. They have made some major franchise-altering moves. They've said some incredibly difficult goodbyes, and right now, their front office is staring down a looming financial cliff that threatens to tear this roster apart. Before we dive into the exact blueprint of this critical season, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment on what you thought about this breakdown. And if you really want to help us keep producing these deep dives, support the channel by becoming a channel member. Now, let's look at the reality in Dallas. We are going to look at the immense, almost crushing pressure facing this franchise right now. We need to treat their 2026 roster not just as a list of names on a depth chart, but as a battlefield with a rapidly closing window. You see, when you construct a roster in the National Football League, it is a delicate, razor-thin balancing act of salary cap management, high-stakes drafting, and developing raw talent. But for Dallas right now, it doesn't feel like a balancing act anymore. It feels like a ticking clock, and the alarm is about to go off. Are they completely out of time? To answer that, we have to look closely at the architecture of this team, starting with what they actually do exceptionally well. Section 1. The 2026 Battlefield Elite Arsenal. 9 out of 10. That is the elite rating for this quarterback room heading into training camp. This offense is firmly anchored by Dak Prescott, who is coming off an absolutely spectacular 2025 season. We're talking about a quarterback who threw for 4,552 yards, 30 touchdowns, and only 10 interceptions. That kind of production is elite. It is right up there with the absolute best years of his entire career. He is the engine. But in the NFL, disaster is always just one hit away. And if something were to happen, the Cowboys have built a safety net. They have Joe Milton III as a very capable, high-upside backup that the team smartly held onto, alongside Sam Howell sitting there as QB3. The position is stable, it is reliable, and most importantly, it is operating at an elite level. And that dominance, it extends directly to a perfect 10 out of 10 special teams unit. In January, when the weather turns cold and playoff games are decided by mere inches, this is what matters. This group is carried by arguably the NFL's premier kicker right now, Brandon Aubrey. The Cowboys did not hesitate for a second to cement him as their kicker of the future. They handed him a massive $28 million extension. That is a fortune for a kicker, but he is worth every single penny. When you pair his absolute ice-in-his-veins accuracy with Brian Anger, who is a rock-solid punter, and Trent Sieg doing great, consistent work at long snapper, Dallas has a legitimate, tangible, undeniable edge over their opponents in the third phase of the game.
So the crucial point here is that the spine of this team is nearly impenetrable. They boast an elite rating of 8 across 3 critical positions: guards, defensive tackles, and safeties. Think of this as the foundation of a fortress. Tyler Smith and Tyler Booker are holding down the interior offensive line brilliantly. They are absolute maulers. On defense, the interior is heavily fortified by superstar Quinnen Williams and the incredibly reliable veteran Kenny Clark, allowing them to easily clog up the middle and destroy opposing run games. And on the back end, patrolling the deep half of the field, you have versatile chess piece Caleb Downs and the veteran instincts of Malik Hooker at safety. This strong, unyielding spine is exactly what you want. No, what you need when you're trying to build a true championship contender. Section 2. Cracks in the armor, exposing the weak links. But here is the brutal reality of professional football. In the NFL, opposing coordinators relentlessly hunt your weaknesses. They will find the crack in your armor and they will pry it open. And for Dallas, there is a stark, terrifying contrast between their rock-solid interior and their highly questionable, unproven depth at linebacker and tight end. These units sit at a rating of just 5. Now, while Jake Ferguson is a fantastic security blanket at tight end, he pulled in 82 receptions last season, everyone sitting behind him on the depth chart is primarily utilized as a blocker. That makes the offense potentially predictable. And at linebacker, they are relying heavily on players like DeMarvion Overshawn, who only played 6 games in 2025. He's lining up alongside very young players like D. Winters and Jayshon Barham. There are just so many unknowns here. And in a championship window, unknowns are dangerous. But the most glaring danger zone of them all,
Look at this chart. The massive drop-off at edge rushers sitting at a rating of just 6. This is a direct, undeniable consequence of the departure of Micah Parsons, who was traded away to the Green Bay Packers. You do not just replace a generational talent like Parsons. While they brought in Rashawn Gary and they have some decent role players rotating in, Gary can be a year-to-year proposition at this stage in his career. The depth at edge rusher right now is simply good. It is not great. And in a passing league entirely defined by your ability to rush the opposing quarterback, that rating of 6 is a glaring, flashing red flag that could derail their entire season. Section 3. The Void. Farewell to a captain.
Because football is played by humans, we have to look beyond just the statistics and examine a massive seismic shift in locker room leadership. Sometimes the loss of a key cultural pillar can impact a team just as much as losing a star starter. Over the weekend, during his 9th annual free Page of Foundation All-Star Sports Camp, longtime special teams ace and 2025 team captain CJ Goodwin announced his retirement. He steps away after 12 grueling years in the NFL, with the last 8 defining seasons spent right here in Dallas. Goodman was an absolute Iron Man. He logged 2,211 special team snaps for the Cowboys. That is staggering. He leaves a massive void, not just on the grass, but in the locker room where the real culture is built.
The leadership gap they are now forced to fill is profound. Special teams coordinator Nick Sorensen pointed out exactly what made him so valuable. Goodwin didn't just survive in this ruthless league by being a good guy in the room. He consistently produced. He took incredible care of his body, and he competed every single day. You do not just draft a replacement for a captain who brings that level of daily unrelenting professionalism. You can't just sign that in free agency. You have to pray someone else internally steps up to fill those massive shoes. And if they don't, the culture suffers.
Section 4. The Financial Cliff. Looming Extensions.
As if the on-field vulnerabilities and the heartbreaking loss of a team captain weren't enough to keep the front office awake at night, an immediate financial precipice is looming. The salary cap is the grim reaper of the NFL, and it waits for no one. Dallas has some incredibly expensive decisions to make, and they have to make them fast. These 3 absolute pillars of the roster are entering 2026 fighting for their financial futures, playing on expiring deals or franchise tags. George Pickens is actively seeking a massive multi-year commitment. Quinnen Williams needs his long-term deal sorted out to secure the defensive line's future, and safety PJ Locke is trying to prove he belongs long-term after signing a 1-year deal. All 3 of these men are highly motivated. That is great for their on-field performance this Sunday, but it creates a massive multi-million-dollar headache for the front office come Monday.
1,429. That staggering number represents George Pickens' receiving yards from last year. Now, what's truly fascinating is how he's handling this high-stakes contract situation. Rather than holding out, sitting at home, and forcing the team's hand through the media, he showed up. He arrived at mandatory minicamp, and he fully intends to play on the franchise tag. He is betting it all on himself. After putting up 93 receptions, 1,429 yards, and 9 touchdowns last year, he's out to prove he can do an impressive encore. He wants to show Dallas exactly why they need to be the franchise that pays him top elite receiver money. If he repeats that production, the price tag is going to be astronomical.
This timeline perfectly illustrates the impending bottleneck. It is severe. PJ Locke, who had a standout offseason working closely with defensive coordinator Christian Parker, is on a 1-year prove-it deal right now. George Pickens is locked into the 1-year franchise tag. And Quinnen Williams, the man who completely transformed the identity of this defense after arriving in a trade from the Jets, has a contract that expires in 2027. That means the time to extend him is rapidly approaching before he hits the open market. The front office's to-do list is stacked to the ceiling, and the urgency is palpable. Section 5. The Ultimate Ultimatum. Win now. When we zoom out and combine all of these elements, the elite strengths at quarterback in the trenches, the terrifying weaknesses at linebacker and edge rusher, the cultural departures, and the massive looming contracts, the true scale of this season becomes undeniably massive. This isn't just about managing money anymore. This isn't just about filling a 53-man roster. This is about cementing a legacy under the ultimate pressure cooker conditions. Dallas has a top-tier quarterback. They have the absolute best kicker in the league. They have a formidable spine, but they are completely exposed on the edges and at the second level, all while trying to figure out how to pay their key foundational pieces next year. It is a house of cards. If the unproven players falter, the whole structure could collapse right in front of our eyes. I will leave you with this final provocative thought to consider as we watch the 2026 season unfold week by bloody week. Can the elite talent mask the glaring vulnerabilities long enough to make a deep playoff run? Or will the harsh financial and roster realities finally catch up to them
and slammed the window shut. The pressure in Dallas has officially reached its boiling point. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive explainer. Once again, you're watching NFL Nexus. If you found this breakdown helpful and want to see more content just like this, be sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment down below on how you think the Cowboys season will end. And please consider supporting the channel by becoming a channel member. Until next time, keep your eyes on Dallas.